Viewers still have the opportunity to see Ne Zha 2, the fifth highest grossing movie of all time, in the theaters, and it's worth the trip for so many reasons. Ne Zha 2 has absolutely dominated the global box office, becoming the highest grossing animated film of all time and knocking Star Wars: The Force Awakens out of the top 5 highest grossing movies ever. The film benefited from releasing in China during the Lunar New Year, a holiday where families have 7 days off work and school. Additionally, many audience members reported going to see Ne Zha 2 multiple times in theaters because they loved it so much. I watched Ne Zha 2 after its United States release, and it was well worth the ticket cost. Ne Zha 2 is captivating, action-packed, and deeply emotional. 8. Ne Zha 2 can stand on its own. Viewers don't need to see Ne Zha to understand Ne Zha 2. A character running towards the camera in Ne Zha 2. One of the biggest hesitations to watching Ne Zha 2 in the theaters is that potential audience members might not have seen the first movie. While Ne Zha was released globally, it didn't have nearly as much attention as the sequel. The film only came out in China, the US, Australia, the UK, Vietnam, and New Zealand. Unfortunately, the non-China releases were undoubtedly impacted by the COVID-19 lockdown. Luckily, viewers don't need to see the first movie in order to understand Ne Zha 2. The sequel provides a brief recap that goes over the main characters and necessary plot points from the original film, setting up the audience with the fundamental information. That said, watching Ne Zha certainly enhances Ne Zha 2, even if it's not required. The good news is that viewers can stream Ne Zha on sites like Rakuten Viki, Peacock, and the Roku channel. 7. Ne Zha 2's animation is visually stunning. Ne Zha 2's animation is worth a trip to the movie theater. Ne Zha 2 is a must-see for anybody who appreciates the art of animation, and it's best suited for the big screen. The first film already offered an impressive approach to animation, but Ne Zha 2 is more visually ambitious than its predecessor. The sequel seamlessly blends together multiple styles, with the animation shaping the characterizations. Although the past film used many animation styles, it becomes even more important to the narrative in Ne Zha 2. The bright and vivid colors are also captivating, drawing attention to the intricacies of the art. Moreover, the combination of traditional and modern aesthetics mirrors the theme of generational divides in Ne Zha 2. Ultimately, Ne Zha 2 is up there with Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, Your Name, and Spirited Away as the most impressive animation I've ever seen in a feature-length film. 6. Ne Zha 2 caters to both adults and children. Ne Zha 2 doesn't just focus on one demographic or the other. Ne Zha 2 screenshot, 2 characters with a dragon. Although it's still brilliant, Ne Zha can feel a bit juvenile at times when it comes to the jokes, which is a barrier for some adult viewers. It feels much more like a children's movie that adults can enjoy. However, Ne Zha 2 feels like a family movie meant for both adults and children. The sequel is much more sophisticated in terms of comedy and story. A good amount of the comedy still has a childish quality, especially the potty and fart jokes, but there are also jokes that only the adults in the theater will fully understand. Both demographics can also enjoy the slapstick humor that's reminiscent of Charlie Chaplin at times. Meanwhile, Ne Zha 2 takes a Pixar-like approach to the story and themes. Pixar has always had a reputation for discussing more adult themes, like mental health and death, in a way that will connect with children as well. Similarly, Ne Zha 2 discusses loss, prejudice, and what we owe to each other. 5. The story in Ne Zha 2 keeps viewers guessing. Ne Zha 2 offers plenty of surprises in plot and character development. Gong Bao looks menacing in Ne Zha. Although I enjoy animated children's movies, they can sometimes be overly formulaic and predictable, making them slightly less entertaining. I didn't have this issue with this film, which keeps viewers guessing from the start to Ne Zha 2's end. The film immediately sets up expectations that Ne Zha and Ao Bing will be on a journey to rebuild their bodies with the 7-colored lotus and keep the bodies alive. However, it's far from a straight line from point A to point B in terms of narrative development. Nothing goes quite as expected, offering twists and turns that will keep the audience on the edge of their seats. The story uses a great deal of foreshadowing without feeling so heavy-handed that it's predictable. 4. Ao Bing and Ne Zha have an entertaining dynamic. The duo's relationship dynamic is central to Ne Zha 2. Ne Zha's relationship with Ao Bing is the heart of both Ne Zha and Ne Zha 2, as the two are literal soulmates made from two halves of the Chaos Pearl. Although they're supposed to be opposites, Ne Zha and Ao Bing serve as foils for one another. Ne Zha is a human boy rejected because he's born of the demon orb, while Ao Bing tries to prove himself because he's a demon dragon born of the spirit pearl. The dynamic between these two become even more prevalent in Ne Zha 2, where they spend almost the entire film together. This is a nice change of pace from Ne Zha, where they had very separate stories. The similarities and differences also become more prominent in Ne Zha 2 because Ao Bing and Ne Zha are forced to work together to preserve their new bodies. They cannot be in constant conflict if they want to survive. 3. Ne Zha 2 will appeal to fans of Marvel and the Avengers. Ne Zha 2 includes many scenes and narrative devices that resemble the MCU. A character fighting a dragon in Ne Zha 2. Ne Zha 2 beat out every Marvel movie at the box office except for Avengers Endgame, which could be sad for superhero fans. However, the animated film is actually the perfect choice for fans of Marvel and the Avengers to watch in theaters. While Ne Zha 2 isn't formulaic, it does rely on the hero's journey framework that Marvel movies employ. Despite misinformation going around on social media, there is no evidence that Ne Zha 2's box office amount is artificially inflated. The titular main character and Ao Bing experience an inciting incident that thrusts them into the hero role. They must go on an adventure filled with fighting and emotional conflicts. I'll refrain from discussing how the ending aligns or diverges from the traditional framework in Marvel movies so as not to spoil Ne Zha 2 too much for readers. However, it's epic. Additionally, Ne Zha 2 is also packed with excellently choreographed fight sequences that are akin to Marvel movies. They combine hand-to-hand combat with the fantastical abilities of the characters, making it feel more like a superhero film than a martial arts film. 2. Ne Zha 2 massively raises the stakes for the titular main character. The Ne Zha franchise continues to broaden the scope of the story. Ne Zha smirks in Ne Zha 2019. Ne Zha and Ne Zha 2 feel like natural progressions of one another, raising the stakes for the eponymous demonic little boy. The central conflict of the first film felt like a me versus us problem. During the movie, Ne Zha tries to figure out his place within a community. He learns how to sacrifice his own self-interests for the collective benefit, while the community learns how to accept someone different from them. However, Ne Zha 2 evolves this driving force from me versus us to us versus them. Ne Zha now feels like a part of a community that he wants to defend and protect. He and all the other characters in the sequel are on an emotional and mental journey to see different groups as equals instead of enemies. Additionally, where Ne Zha's actions in the first film only impacted Chitang Pass, his journey in the second film provides immense world building. He and Ao Bing venture outside the dragon prison in Chitang Pass, meaning their actions have consequences that could impact not just their own people but the wider fantasy world of Ne Zha. 1. Ne Zha 2 likely won't be available for VOD for about 5 months. Fans will have to wait quite some time for Ne Zha 2 to reach VOD. Ne Zha 2 imagery. When deciding whether or not to see Ne Zha 2 in the movie theater, interested parties should consider one key factor that's different from Hollywood releases. Generally, anyone who wants to see a movie but doesn't want to go to the theater only needs to wait around a month for the film to hit VOD and another month for it to reach streaming. However, this likely won't be the case for Ne Zha 2 if they follow the trend of the first film. The first Ne Zha took 6 months to release for rental or purchase on digital platforms like Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, and Google Play. Based on this time period, Ne Zha 2 is expected to release for VOD in July or August, depending on whether they use the China release date or the US release date. However, this window could last even longer for Ne Zha 2, considering its unprecedented success at the box office. It seems highly likely they'll extend the exclusive theatrical window, allowing the film to continue breaking records. Thanks for watching.